What is up, boys and girls of YouTube? My name is Carl and today I'm back with another high stakes review video. The format will be slightly different. We'll go over the full high stakes thread of March and we'll just do it live, or well, I'm pre-recording this but I'm not preparing too much. I'm just gonna browse through the thread, discuss some hands that pop up. So if everything goes well, we'll see more hands, but I'll have slightly less to say about them. So let's just get started here. March high stakes thread, we have 5 pages, but I have 100 posts per page, so that's quite some posts. But this is 2 + 2. There's a lot of people just spamming shit. There will be PLO hands that I'm gonna skip. I'm just gonna focus on the 6 max no limit games. Yeah, so here first couple of hands, 3-handed between Trueteller, Bit2Easy and Katya. I think Trueteller and Katya are both Russians or something like that. That's kind of ignorant or whatever from me. Trueteller and Katya, both old school legends, but still going strong, I think, in No Limit Hold'em these days. I also think both of them, or at least Trueteller, they play more than just No Limit Hold'em. So maybe you could argue that they could be a bit weaker in No Limit Hold'em because it's not their main game or not their only game. But yeah, I wouldn't dare to call them bad players. Bit2Easy, our up-and-comer, he's been featured in a previous high-stakes video. He has been put into some people's top 10 Zoom 500 tracks. It's a guy of whom I don't know what to think of him. Like, some people seem to think he's really good, and that's why I have upped my opinion of him, but I'm not really sure how good he exactly is these days. But he seems to be battling it out with the big boys, so I guess that makes him a big boy too. I don't know if anyone is seen as the spot on this table, like the weaker spot. Maybe they're just battling it out, trying to improve their game and get a game going. Maybe a weaker player will join, so they just start battling it out 3-handed, hoping for a weaker player to join them. Anyway, Trueteller opens from the button, Bit2Easy triggers from the small blind, and Trueteller calls. They are 150 big blinds deep, so the change here is that out of position 3-better should be a bit more careful, and I think he should do a bit more checking and less c-betting. So a 4-3 deuce rainbow board, these ace high, no, not ace high, those wheel draw boards where the ace hits the gut shot are always a bit interesting. I haven't really totally figured them out, but I think out of position 3-better can just mindlessly c-bet their full range like they could on some other boards. So Bit2Easy c-bets half pot here and gets the call from Trueteller. Bet sizing seems fine, like I think you can go a couple of different ways. Also, they are a bit deeper, so that might influence bet size in some way. Like I don't really have a lot to say about this bet sizing choice here. But he c-bets, gets the call. Like I said, I don't think he should be c-betting too many of his hands. Probably needs to split up his overpairs in a betting range and a checking range. So both of those ranges are protected a bit. Then the Queen of Hearts, I would categorize that as a strong card for Bit2Easy. He will have some King Queen or Ace Queen that hits the Queen. Like I think in general, the overcards, the Broadway overcards, hits Bit2Easy well and offer him a lot of barrel opportunities. So when he checks on that board, I don't think he's check folding too often. I think he has a lot of bluffs that can continue to barrel, and when he checks it, I think it's usually going to be to check call. Trueteller stabs for a bit less than half pot. Bit2Easy does go for the check call. And then on the 3 of hearts river, the flush comes in, Bit2Easy checks, Trueteller goes all in for like 1.5 times pot, so a very polarized bet. we immediately see the results, but I can go over the ranges afterwards. So True Teller shows up with the 7-6 of hearts, very standard. B2Easy shows up with a pocket tens with a 10 of hearts blocker. So versus a balanced opponent, this would be a reasonable bluff catcher, I suppose, because of the 10 of hearts blocking the flush that got there on the river. So what do I think of the play once we see both hands? B2Easy, flop c-bet, fine. On the turn, I think pocket tens could benefit from barreling for like less than half pot, maybe between 1/3 and half pot. I think like jacks, tens and nines like to play it like that. Of course, you have some stronger hands that maybe want to bet for a bigger size, so you need to try to stay balanced between all those bet sizes. After a check, standard check call, standard bet for True Teller. And on the river, well, True Teller could be bluffing, of course. He has some other hands, like he has the other 7-6s that would be bluffing like this. And on this board versus this size deeper, I think True Teller needs to float with a lot of overcards with backdoor flush draws too. So I think it would be capable of showing up with enough bluffs. I don't know if he would be balanced for this all-in bet size though. But anyway, like let's assume high stakes, these guys know what's up. They're gonna be more or less balanced. So I'm just gonna give my opinion on these hands. Obviously, people can deviate from what a solver says, people can have exploitative reads on each other and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's move on here. Same three-handed battle again. Small blind 3-bet versus a button open. B2Easy versus True Teller. B2Easy, see, they're both 100 big blinds deep now, more or less. And on a 10 deuce deuce rainbow board, B2Easy goes for the 1/3 pot bet. That is an option, that is a very popular option. I think this is the kind of board where you can just see about 100% of your range for this size and be more or less fine. It works pretty well as an exploit versus people who under defend, but versus True Teller, maybe if he is defending enough, like there are different strategies possible. I think some solver sims would show that you could also benefit from betting half pot or 60% pot or something like that on 10, let's say 10 deuce deuce, 9 deuce deuce, 7 deuce deuce, stuff like that. You would benefit from having a bigger bet there. Then the queen turn, again a good turn for B2Easy, and he is checking. True Teller checks back. I think B2Easy would barrel this often. I think a lot of his bluffs, flop bluffs, connect with the queen, so offer him very good barrel opportunities. And then on the river, B2Easy goes for the 1/3 pot bet and True Teller makes the call. So B2Easy shows up with 8-7 of diamonds and True Teller made the call with the ace-jack with the ace of clubs blocker for the potentially rivered flush. So I think B2Easy's bet, the 1/3 pot, is fine-ish, like he's wrapping the thinner value, probably having 10x as his worst value bet. Makes sense for him to have 10x, like c-bet the flop, not gonna barrel the 10x on the turn, and then on the river he can go for a value bet again. And True Teller made the call there with the ace-jack. Looks thin, but probably GTO style, you need to call down a lot versus that tiny size. And the ace-jack probably makes it in there. He doesn't, like he has ace-high, so let's say B2Easy is not gonna bluff ace-high. So True Teller unblocks some of B2Easy's bluffs, so that looks fine. And B2Easy is basically just trying to make a cheap bluff, just bet and hope True Teller folds some ace highs or some pairs worse than pocket tens. Like probably this play is fine from both players. as long as they don't always do it. Yes, the classic excuse of low frequency plays. But it does make some sense. So next hand, button open from Katja. Bito is in the big blind, 3-betting. 6-5-3, like those low connected boards as the first hand. Not a very good board for Bito easy. Yes, he does have overpairs, but the board, like those overpairs, won't be the nuts on many turns and rivers anymore. And Katja can flop 3 sets, 6-5 suited, and stuff like that. So it's a tricky board to play. He goes for the small c-bet. Probably you can get away with c-betting 100% of your range here, but having some small c-bets is fine. Then the 8 of clubs turn. Bito easy chooses to barrel. It's not a good card for him. A lot of Katja's flop calling range improves, gets extra equity on that 8 turn. So it's a turn where, like, it's a tricky flop to play, and it's a turn where Bito easy also needs to be careful. Then the Queen of Spades is, however, a good river for Bito easy. The board doesn't get scarier. There's no straight hitting on the river, and he goes all in, and we do not see a showdown. So yeah, I expect Bito easy to. I'm thinking of his weakest value hands. Like if he goes really thin, I don't know if it's really thin, but he could probably play like pocket 9s or pocket 10s or better like this. Yeah, I think that is fine. On this river, like everything missed, so it's a really good river for him. Katja has a lot of hands that improve on various rivers, but the Queen of Spades is not one of them. Next up, 4-bet pot. I'm just gonna skip that. Like I have a lot of interesting things to say about that. Then single raised pot, button versus big blind. We have a half pot c-bet on the Jack 6 deuce. I think this shows a bit the old school style of Katja and True Teller. I think most players would go for 1/3 pot c-bet on this board, or make it bigger, like polarize more between the small and the bigger size instead of the half pot. Then queen, good turn to barrel for Katja. I also think it's a good overbet spot for many hands Katja has, so it's interesting that he doesn't go for the overbet. Yeah, like this to me is a classical overbet spot, but he doesn't do it. Katja check raises, no, sorry. Katja barrels, True Teller check raises huge, and Katja makes the call. So this sizing should be pretty polarizing. So it's representing either slow plays from the flop or a hand that improved to 2-pair on the turn for value, and then you have some backdoor flush draws and backdoor straight draws that would make this play as a bluff. And then on the 4 river, True Teller, after check raising so polarizing, goes for an interesting bet size. I don't really see myself making this bet size. I think most standard on the river would be a polarized bet sizing. So I don't know how much money they have left. I don't know if all-in is like an option, so let's say 7k. So they have about a lot left. 17k behind. No, okay, no, it's a slight overbet. So overbet or check would be most reasonable, in my opinion, from a GTO point of view, I think. And if you go for a smaller bet, probably make it even smaller than this. So True Teller shows up with 6 deuce, Katja has queen jack. I think Katja should jam the river with his queen jack. Like he beats queen 6, queen deuce, so he beats a lot of value, and well, True Teller maybe sometimes has nuttier value for this line, but I think he would often jam it, and and versus this sizing, I think Katja just needs to go all in with the queen jack. I think queen jack is strong enough to do that. Truth teller with the 6 deuce. I think it's probably high frequency flop check raise. On the turn, it gets dicey. I mean, I don't even know if it is strong enough to check raise for this size on the turn. But maybe not blocking a queen is nice here, since Katja could easily barrel a queen. So 6 deuce can check raise and get called by those queens. I think with the 6 deuce, maybe you even like the check raise turn, check river line, something like that. Anyway, next hand, because this is going really slow. Yes. Next hand, again, truth teller, bit too easy, Katja. Truth teller opening the button, and he opens for 3.5x. That is interesting. Did he do that? We haven't seen him open on the... No, we have seen him open to 550. So now he makes it bigger. So he has multiple button opening sizes. Where were we? Opens, bit too easy calls. Truth teller c-bets, bit too easy goes for the check raise. 7, bit too easy barrels. So yeah, the flop check raises, usually it's gonna be a flush or a some kind of spade draw. Then on the turn, bit too easy continues to barrel. If he check raises a set or king 4 or something like that, he could barrel the turn for this size, but then he would check the river with them, I think. But he goes all in on the queen of clubs river. Truth teller makes the call, and bit too easy shows up with the ace of spades, 10 of diamonds for a missed ace high flush draw. Truth teller shows up with pocket kings. Standard call down by truth teller, and bit too easy. I don't like it. I think ace stand functions better as a check call on the flop and play it like that. Because you have so many offsuit ace combos, I think usually you would check raise bluff with some of the worst ones. So like anything lower than ace 10 would be a better hand to check raise bluff it and barrel, like ace 5, ace 6, ace 7, stuff like that. I think that's usually how it's supposed to be played. Of course, exploitative reads, blah blah blah. Again, a bigger button open from truth teller. 3-bet from, yeah, 4-bet pot, gonna skip that. Also gonna skip the short stack. Bit too easy on suicide watch. I hope not. Bit too easy. Like, I wish you all the best, man. Blah 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 blah. Scrolling. Heads up. Pot limit Omaha. Yeah, very interesting. Some heads up action between MMA Sherdog and Limitless. Okay, I wasn't gonna comment on heads up hands, but this is just a freaky hand. So button open, MMA calls, check check, MMA goes for a polarizing bet size. Yeah, I think he should bet Queen X or a bluff, so polarizing size makes sense. Then on the river, he goes for an interesting bet size. Maybe he wants to induce, and yes, he gets the raise. So I guess he tries to wrap that he would also bet a Jack X on the turn, and Jack X wouldn't go for a big river bet, but it could go for a small bet. And Limitless has plenty of Queen X, so it makes sense for him to have some raise with the Queen X. Then MMA goes for the 3-bet. Yeah, so with that 3-bet, I think we're reaching the territory of never bluffing here, but it's heads up. People like to click it back, show each other who's boss, make sick bluffs with sick odds. That's why Limitless jams all in for 550 more, trying to make that sick bluff, but it's no good. So, I mean, I'd say this is not GTO. Oh right, yes. Is this straight from the sim? No, is this straight from the Sims textbook? No, it is not. 500 zoom hands. Interesting, but that's not what we're here for. Also no pot limit. Omaha. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Linislav, Katja, Ja, Sam, Gale. Also 3 names that have been featured in previous high stakes hands videos, so let's see what they're up to. 10k no limit. Oh, they're short stacking bullshit. Okay, let's look at that anyway. Button open, big blind call, small c-bet call, check, check. Like, this would be a good turn for Linus to overbet polarized, but he also needs a hand to do it with. Like, I can imagine he goes for a very high frequency c-bet for the small size, so he can't bluff all his bluffs on the turn, or he would be way over bluffing. Katja going for the overbet, repping the 2-pair plus or the flush. Linus calls. Katja has the missed gut shot. Linus makes, I think it's a non-GTO call with the ace king, with the ace of clubs. I think versus that size, like the ace of, having the ace of clubs is nice, but I don't think you need to make that call. But nobody forces you to play a GTO calling range. Like, you can make exploitative adjustments. Next up, same 3, button open, small blind 3-bet, small c-bet, probably full range bet. Turn not very good for 3-better, so he's gonna have a bit more checks. Linus checks back. River 4 straight, not a good card for 3-better. Linislav makes a big polarizing bet, so I am expecting at least 2-pair for value. He can have some ace high or over like king queen checkbacks on the turn that will bluff on this river. And I'm saying this without looking at the hands already. So yes, Linus indeed has the ace high that checks back the turn and tries to delay its bluff when it sees a favorable river. 500 zoom, funny hand. Oh yeah, I saw this. I have no idea what's happening here. Definitely not GTO. So small blind 3-bet from Xelic. Bidar.com flats. Xelic goes for the pot c-bet on 4-6-5 with 2 clubs. I also think this is not very GTO. 5 club turn, not a good turn for the 3-better, so he's gonna be doing some checking. He goes for the small check call. No, he goes for the check call versus small bet. And then on the king of spades river, button goes all in and Xelic makes the bluff catch. And Peter has pocket 8s, so he is bluffing with pocket 8s. A non-GTO bluff, so he expects, if he has a logical thinking process, he expects Xelic to be too weak and expects him to be overfolding, but Xelic makes the call with 7-6 suited, which is a worse hand, so it is a bluff with pocket 8 that gets called by a bluff catcher. That's like merging ranges or whatever, but don't believe everything you read on the internet. Like, it's not really a thing, it's just exploitative plays with some assumptions leading to these weird call downs. Yes, I assumed Peter was bluffing. Yes, Chad Mosley, you are right. Okay, finally, 6-handed. 10k, Lin, Mouse, Moose, or whatever is the spot at the table. Saruba opens. Big blind 3-bets. I actually don't know Joe Betsu, but I'll just assume he's a reg. because 2 spots at one 10k table, that would be a bit too good to be true. Big blind 3-bet versus cutoff, so reasonably tight range probably. Going for the small c-bet here. Again, multiple options possible. Some people still go for the very high frequency small c-bet on this board, but you do get some value from having a bigger bet size too, or just having a bigger bet size and not just a small bet. The 8 of spades, not a good turn for Jobetsu, but he still barrels, and he barrels big. And then we have a 10 of spades, and he bets big. Okay, so this hand makes me think he is not a good player, and this is a 10k zoom table with 2 weaker players. Not zoom, it's a 10k table with 2 weaker players. Nice, must be nice. Because the king 10 of clubs barrel, that's not a very good barrel on this turn, I think. And then on the river, it's pretty thin to go for value with the king 10 as big blind versus cutoff. Yeah, and he doesn't go all in, he leaves like 390 behind, so that's not what a reg would do. Next up, Make Boy Finn opens under the gun. Oh, you know, flats in middle position. You don't see a lot of players do that. Mostly 3-bet or fold from MP. Facing a squeeze from the cutoff. Oh, Yumino calls. So I would guess it's like a lot of 8s, 9s, 10s, king queen suited, ace queen, ace jack suited, stuff like that. So check, small c-bet, call, check, bigger bet, call, and then check, all in, and a call. So on the turn, I think it's a lot of Jack X or better that's left, because I don't think O should be calling all his 8s, 9s, or 10s on the turn anymore. I think he can fold some of them. River, all in, getting a call. Oh, what the fuck's up with these guys? Oh my god. So I don't like the river all in, like from a GTO equilibrium point of view. Ace jack is not an all in anymore. They're also deeper and they're going all in. Yeah, this is pretty amazing. And Yumino finding the call with pocket 9s. Okay, boys. Yes. Let's move on. Yumino raising from MP, not Limous, 3-betting from the button. Yumino 4-bet. The mouse makes the call. So I think it's a pretty splashy recreational player, so Yumino will be very value heavy, expecting a lot of calls. So going for the bet here, gets the call, going for the jam. Like, this has to be value only, no bluffs. And yes, he has pocket queens, getting called by the better hand. Bummer. Ryan Fee, streaming some PLO, so check out his Twitch stream. Fresh Sims. Okay, like I wasn't gonna discuss heads up hands, but this might be interesting here, as I don't know, Mukoma, probably a good reg, like otherwise he wouldn't be battling. So button open, 3-bet from Linus Love, and then he goes for the 10% c-bet on this board. So, small little side note on the 10% c-bet. Like, I haven't studied it, but an important thing to realize is that there is very little difference between a check out of position and a small bet out of position. You can think of a check as a bet of $0 or a bet of 0 chips. So when you go from 0 to 2 BB, like there's a small difference. They're kind of the same, because when you check, in position you can still bet and do whatever you want. When you bet small, well, in position can bet, call, or raise. So when you bet, when you have position, you reopen the action, as in out of position can check raise you. But when you are out of position, you don't reopen any action. The other player still has to act anyways. So I think having that in mind could make you more comfortable with those small bets out of position. That's the first side note. Second side note is nobody knows how to act, or like it can confuse people. So if Linus has done a bit more thinking or simming with this bet size, I bet he can just gain an exploitative edge with a small bet, because people don't know how to respond properly versus it. So whenever you use an unorthodox bet size that has like equal EV from a GTO point of view, you can still gain extra EV from the exploitative point of view, because people misplay versus it. So I think we can sum it up like that. I think it's very interesting here. So like he bets $100, not a lot of difference between a bet and a check here. So I think when you react versus it, you should think of it as Linus Love checks to me. How do I react? So you can fold a tiny fraction of your range, but you're not supposed to be folding a whole lot. Check, check. Linus again goes for the minuscule bet, and Makoma makes the fold. So yeah, I can't really say too much about this, as I'm also not familiar with it, but I think it is very interesting. And he does the same on the ace-king board. Although here on the turn he starts to bet big and polarized. But just think of it as a check and use that to guide your flop raising range and how you play the turn and stuff like that. Linus also playing pot limit Oma heads up against the bosses, but okay, we're not gonna look at that. Man, I thought I would do 5 pages in one YouTube video, but I'll just continue a bit and we'll stop at 1 page, since this is already going on for a while. I hope you guys are still enjoying it. Yes, so next up, 5k, 6-handed, Zaruba opening, cutoff, getting called from a big blind, small c-bet, check call, barrel the queen, good card for Zaruba, again getting a check call, river all in, never a bluff, gets a call from Naji, boom, never a bluff is a bluff, boom, mind blown. Okay, there go my never a bluff reads. So in this case, I don't like the bluff. I'm thinking now, like, should I cut this out? But no, I'll leave it in. That's what I get for being like, never a bluff. Yes, okay, moving on. This is just a shitty play. Like he needs to be bluffing with a club blocker. And I expect people to be under bluffing for this line. See bets, almost 3.5 times spots. No, doesn't make sense in my opinion. Like a smaller bet as a bluff would also do the trick. Okay, I'm thinking too much about this, and we wanted to have a quick video under the gun limp. So yeah, Najitan will be the weaker player, I guess. Limp, Linus raises small blinds. O human O 3 bets, relatively small. Linus makes the call. 1/3 pot c bet call. Linus goes for the donk on the 10. I don't think from a GTO point of view this is supposed to happen that often. But you can do it for exploitative reasons, of course. And then on the 7, so for the small donk, Linus can have a lot of thin value hands and 10x and some bluffs, of course. And then on the 7x river, he goes all in. So this is 7x or better, and human makes the call. Linus shows up with quads. Well played. human makes the call with pocket aces. So I think it's a standard call with pocket aces. He has the ace of clubs, which blocks some suited ace-10 combos in case that matters. From Linus's point of view, like he can have exploitative reasons to bet the turn, and when he's up against trips, he might face a small raise or whatever. Like it's always nice with pocket 7s to induce some action, trying to make sure the money goes in. And then on the river, Linus can have some busted gut shots and flush draws, so he wants to jam in the money himself. That's especially good versus ace highs human might have, because those will just check back since they do well on this board, checking back the river. They beat the bluffs anyways. Fuck, I'm getting a bit slow here. Come on. Pocket 7s. So Linus, yeah, I think it's just the way to get most value here. But I wouldn't have the small turn lead. Linus has it. Tricky player, he's the man, he knows what's up, so who am I to argue with it? Heads up, blah blah blah. Button clicker, be too easy, blah blah blah. Six-handed, the eye poker opens cutoff. Katja 3-bets, eye poker calls. Katja goes for the half pot bet. Again, this is like classic Katja, more old school approach. Yeah, I think most players see bet either smaller or bigger here, but whatever. Eye poker check calls, check check. Eye poker checks again. He should be leading some aces to get some value, but he decides to get tricky here. Katja bets half pot, and eye poker check raises all in. Katja makes the call. The eye poker has ace jack. Katja river to 2 pair, and I think it's a standard call. I don't know if people are bluffing a balanced range here, but from a GTO point of view, it is a very standard check call from Katja. The eye poker going for the check raise. Maybe with the ace jack, he thinks it's very likely that Katja has a hand that needs to bluff the river in order to win, or he can still get some value from an ace x, a weaker ace x, and put that hand into a tough spot. So yeah, like this is a bit more tricky than most people are used to, but fine. Moving on, Proto opens, or Prot 0, I don't know, opens middle position. The weaker player floods the cutoff, eye poker overcalls in the big blinds. Flops checks true. On the jack of spades, middle position bets big, weaker player calls. The eye poker check raise is huge. Never a bluff. The mouse calls. Eye poker goes all in. The mouse calls. Never a bluff again. Owned. Why am I so quick to make those never bluff calls? But why are they bluffing the weaker players? Okay, so well played, well deserved cutoff. Oops. Okay, so let's go back here. I snap say never a bluff because I don't think he folds out a hand from both players often enough. But on the other hand, this guy will rarely have a hand strong enough to call both the check raise and the river all in. So maybe it's a bad check raise in a vacuum, like if the hand would end there, it's not good enough, but with the added river full equity, maybe it is worth it. Maybe it's something I need to think about, because I snap called never a bluff twice so far and they were bluffing, so yeah, okay, moving on. What's up with this heads up action? I thought heads up was dead. Three-handed, bit too easy, Philismies and Kacha. I think this is a lineup we have already seen again in one of the previous videos. Bit too easy opens button, Philismies call, 3 bets, small c-bet here, standard-ish, bit too easy calls. Turn is a spot where a lot of players will start being more polarized, going for the bigger bet. 2 draws here, like 2 flush draws here, gut shot, straight draws. So barreling strong with King X or better for value. And then on the river, he goes all in. Bit too easy makes the call. Philismies has the 7-6 of hearts. And that is probably over bluffing. Okay, I just had to run the quick sim to look at this hand. So it is a reasonable bluff on the river with the 7-6 of hearts. 7-6 of hearts doesn't really block any folds that Bit too easy might have on the river. So reasonable bluff here with the missed flush draw. Like, there's 2 missed flush draws, so you will be bluffing with some missed flush draws. And the 7-6 of hearts is a fine choice here. So yes, moving on. Blind versus blind. Kacha opens, Bit too easy 3 bets. Bit too easy going for the half pot c-bet on this board. It's fine. Again, many players would go for smaller or slightly bigger, but you can construct multiple strategies. It's hard to say based on one hand or one size how a player's full strategy is constructed, so I can't really say if it's good or bad, but it's fine. 4 of spades. Bit too easy checks. 4 of spades, not a good card for him. He will need to check back some mate hands to protect his check back range. And then on the queen river, Kacha goes for a big bet. Thinking for a second about kind of hands Kacha wants to be betting. I think it makes sense for him to just have a bigger bet. Go for a more polarized size. Kacha has the ace-10 of clubs. Probably not the best bluff. Like, you would like to have some kind of spade blocker, but then again, like, which hands do you have that are like that? Okay, I guess you could have King Jack with a spade, Ace Jack with a spade, and find your bluffs like that. But Bit too easy shows up with pocket kings. Not many people will show up with pocket kings there, but I think it's played fine that he checks back the turn sometimes with pocket kings. That's just how this spot will work. Moving on, Kacha opens the button, Philismies 3-bet, 4-bet pot. Not gonna bother looking at that. Button open, 3-bet from the big blind. Philismies calls. Small c-bet, call. Again, a spot where you could opt for a bigger bet size too. Barrel on the turn. Kacha will have to find some... Oh, sorry. So after the 3-bet or c-bets and gets a call, like turns that are good for him are usually the 10x, like something between a 10 and a king. Those are the best cards to barrel, as they give you new top pairs or just some scare card action. But the 5, not the best card to barrel on, but over pairs are still good, still gonna barrel. So we'll still see aggressive barreling. Phyllis Mies makes the call. And the river, Katja goes all in. Like pocket tens or better would make this play. And Phyllis Mies makes the call. So Katja has pocket aces, are reasonably standard, although pocket aces can be used to mix in some traps on the flop or the turn, using those to protect your checking range. Like you would be more likely to check somewhere with pocket aces than you would be with a hand like pocket jacks, since pocket jacks will be more vulnerable, and pocket aces, yeah, it's just an unvulnerable overpair, so it's a very good hand to throw in occasional checks. And Phyllis Mies shows up with a straight. This might seem loose for some people, but I think it's very reasonable flop deal for this bet size. You just need to defend white as the button, and the 8-7, 2 overcards. Well, like 2 cards that can hit a pair versus another unpaired hand, and backdoor straight out, backdoor gut shot. So yeah, seems fine. Moving on. Another 3-handed low limit hold'em hand. Button open from Phyllis Mies. A bit too easy 3-bets. I think it's a bit bigger than he usually does, but they are also a tiny bit deeper. Bit too easy checking. Phyllis Mies going for the small stab. I've seen people do this, going for the small stab, but I think from a GTO point of view, usually you would need to stab a bit bigger and a bit more polarized when it's checked to you on this ace high board. But you can construct your strategy in a variety of ways, so yeah, whatever. Check, Phyllis Mies barrels. The 6 pairing is interesting because ace 10 or worse now splits with all other aces. But Phyllis Mies can still barrel ace queen or better for value. Bit too easy check calls. I'm saying this because if the 6 was a deuce, then maybe Phyllis Mies bets ace 10. But now he will probably check it back, since when he gets called, his ace 10 does worse because it splits with all other aces, so there's less value to be had. Splits with all other worse aces. And then on the river, Phyllis Mies goes for 1/3 pot bet. This is interesting size. Oh yeah, the backdoor flush draw got there, so yeah, maybe he's trying to induce something or trying to get called by a worse hand. A bit too easy check jams. Often again, I would say never a bluff, but bit too easy, aka bit too spewy, so you never know what he shows up with, I suppose. Phyllis Mies also quite the aggressive, tricky player himself, so yeah, hard to predict what's going on here all the time. Bit too easy, queen 10. I like the way he played it. Obviously, like just c-betting it is is the most standard play. But against some tricky players who aren't afraid to punish a perceived cap range or go for big bets or big calls, playing a bit more tricky sometimes gets paid off big time. And Phyllis Mies has the ace king. So, yeah, like he probably doesn't need to bet call that. So I don't really like how this is played, but again, reads, low frequency, name your excuse. Button opens, Philosophy has 3 bets. A board where Philosophy will do some checking on versus good aggressive regulars. B2Easy goes for a small step. Philosophy goes for a huge check raise. That's very huge. So he's basically committed. Like I don't think he would have a lot of check raise folds for this size, as he needs very little equity to call it off. B2Easy goes all in, so let's see what they show up with. B2Easy having the pocket 4s. Phyllis Mias with the ace king. What the fuck? I'm thinking, seeing if I can understand this. Nope. The ace of clubs blocks some of B2Easy's continuing range. That's something I can say. That is interesting. Is he committed? Well, he's trapping the draw and B2Easy will check, like, get it in lighter with some top pairs. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Okay, moving on. Button opens, B2Easy 3 bets. Again, slightly deeper, 150 deep. B2Easy going for the super tiny 3 bet. Will C bet. And I'm thinking back about Linus Love's 10% pot C bet, so that could be applicable on this board if you know how to work with it. So we have 25% pot C bet. Sure thing. Katja makes the call. 6 turn. B2Easy will do a bunch of checking and be check calling. Katja goes for the half pot bet. B2Easy checks, Katja goes all in, B2Easy calls. And yeah, I think because they're deeper, it can get trickier, but a lot of ace X just needs to call down, because when B2Easy C bets so small, Katja needs to float really wide. And yeah, he will have missed straight draws and backdoor stuff. So I guess ace 10 needs to make the call down there. Scroll. 500 zoom, why? Okay, because this was funny, tricky action here. Button opens, big blind calls. Button C bets big. Nuts random, check raises, pretty small. And button makes the flop, click it back-ish 3 bet. Button floats. And then you see what they show up with and you're like, oh my god, what is happening here? Why? I thought you guys were better than this. Okay, moving on. Yeah, skipping the 500 zoom there. Almost reaching the end of the page, finally. Surfer, middle position. Opens, OTB, the man, the myth, the legend, finally back in action. 3 bets from the button. Surfer 4 bets, OTB flats. Surfer goes for the small C bet on this board. It can be a tricky board to play, as you think, yes, it hits the 4 better very much, but button will also flat with a range that connects reasonably well with this board. Turn 10, check. A river, a queen, middle position jams. It's not a good river for middle position, so he shouldn't be doing too much of anything, bluffing and or value betting. OTB, tricky motherfucker as he is, has the pocket aces. Of course he has the pocket aces. Yeah, so do I like this? OTB played it perfectly, of course. Surfer jamming this. He blocks pocket 8s that OTB could have for a small percentage of the time. I'm just thinking like, don't bluff anything here, but that can be GTO, can it? Just a bad river, just don't even try it. Middle position, weaker player opens, small blind 3 bets, gets the call. C-bet's a bit less than half pot, gets the call. Barrels. Sizing starts showing me that he's trying to milk the weaker player. And then he goes all in on the big river, gets the call. And again, my reads are so bad. Or they are so bad. I don't know who's bad. I don't have any stats on middle position. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't do this kind of video anymore. Maybe I should pick out hands where I do have the good reads and have interesting things to say. Okay, next up, weaker player, the mouse, opening under the gun. Big blind bets, who seems to be crushing it since last year. 3 bets. The mouse goes for the 4-bet jam, gets called. Boom. Well, standard for big blind bets. Limous, maybe a bit less standard here. Moving on, button open from MMA Sherdog. Big blind bets, raises the big blind. 3 bets, one might say. Gets the call. He goes for half pots here. Again, one of those boards where some people will go for the small size, but I think once you're up against players who correctly defend versus smaller bet sizes, this is also one of those boards where you actually want to bet a bit bigger than 1/3 pot. 10 of spades, big blind bets, I think correctly goes for the 1/3 pot barrel. Tricky turn, not a very good turn, but the 1/3 pot still gets you some value and protection. Then 6 of spades, river. Not a good river for big blind bets. Instead of jamming most flushes himself, I think he should either go for some block bet type bet or just do a lot of checking. And MMA goes all in. And big blind bets does indeed have the queen high flush, so I like how he played it. MMA with the ace 9, so yes, he is able to find a bluff when check to here, which is good. He needs to do that, but on the turn, I'm not really sure if his hand has enough equity, but it's such a small bet that maybe he needs to make the call. I think he's gonna be in a world of pain usually. Like either he's gonna have to fold the river facing a bet, or he's getting owned too much, like too frequently to make that call. I'm not really sure. This is tricky spot. Gonna be a very low EV call on the turn, but maybe it's still a positive EV call. Next hand, MMA opening the button. Big blind bets again, 3-betting from the big blind. Seeing a king queen 7 flop, small c-bet, gets the call. Turn, you see again the bigger bet size, more polarized range. MMA jams, so double flush draw board, big bet, he jams. Reasonable to have some good draws to jam in there, and some king queen pocket 7s, I don't know, something like that. And MMA has the a6 of clubs. I don't think I like that jam. I think he needs to call unless he has... I think he needs to call the turn unless he has specific reads. Or maybe the a6 of clubs is actually fine, because big blind bets might bet call some combo draws that are crushed by a6. So that's nice. Maybe it's better to call ace 10 of clubs and jam a6 of hearts over the barrel. I guess there's a couple of ways to construct your strategy again there. But I'd say it's standard to call the turn there. Undergun, weaker player opening, button 3-betting, getting flat by undergun. Small c-bet, check raise, Zaruba, all in. Now I'm gonna say never a bluff. And I'm right, boom. Unfortunately for him, undergun shows up with 6-4 offsuit. So yes, seems like I gotta get me in those games. Damn, 4-6-0. Nice. So yes, move up to where they respect your whatever. Last hand of this page and this video. Zaruba, opening from the cutoff. OTB, flatting in a small blind. Come on OTB, I thought we moved past that. Underrow squeezes in the big blind. Zaruba calls, OTB folds. Underrow goes for the small c-bet on this board. Sure. Turn goes check check. And then on the river, the queen. Good turn, good river for Underrow to reopen the betting. I guess he can go for a sizing like this, wrapping a bit stronger value, but he could easily also go for 1/3 pot with some kind of check X. Zaruba's call down, yeah, I would say it's not GTO, but maybe there's some reads involved. Underrow's play, I like it, it's fine to bluff with the ace-5. Alright, that's it for this video guys. I'm gonna edit it a bit and maybe, well, maybe not too much, but it turned out really long. I thought I could go through these hands faster, but yeah, what can I say? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave feedback on this kind of video. Maybe you thought it was really boring. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to let me know. And I'll see you guys back in another one.